Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show that takes you past the grammar books and right into the messy, confusing, and brilliant heart of real native English. And before we get started, if you like what you hear, please do hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment. It really does help us out.
It absolutely does. And today, we are on a mission. It's a critical one, I think.
Yeah, it really is. We're talking about that huge, massive gap between textbook English and, well, real life English.
The kind of English that actually happens in meetings at a cafe with your friends.
Exactly. Our mission today is to decode the hidden social code. We want to know why native speakers say things that, if you just translate them word for word, make absolutely zero sense.
Right. And you, our listener, you might have a fantastic vocabulary. You might know, the top 1,000, 2,000 most common words. The building blocks are all there.
You've done the work. You've studied the flashcards.
But then you're in a conversation and someone uses a phrase where those simple words, suddenly combine into this totally alien meaning.
And that feeling washes over you. That, oh no, I'm lost. That feeling of being talked at instead of talked to.
That's the anxiety, the hesitation we're here to tackle.
That's the learning gap we're going to bridge today. This is all about getting you past that intermediate plateau, that B2 level, and really pushing into true mastery. We're talking C1, C2 level stuff.
And just so we're all on the same page, C1, C2, that's the top of the scale, the Common European Framework of Reference. C1 is basically effective proficiency. You can handle pretty much anything.
You're fluent for all intents and purposes.
Exactly. And C2 is mastery. You're essentially near native. You get the jokes, the nuance, the sarcasm. You're swimming in the language, not just, treading water.
And here's the secret, the thing the textbooks don't always emphasize. Making that leap, especially from B2 to C1, it isn't just about cramming more and more individual words into your brain.
No, not at all. It's about internalizing what linguists call lexical chunks.
Okay, that sounds a bit academic. Break that down for us. What is a lexical chunk?
Think of it like this. Your brain is a super powerful computer, but it has limited processing power, especially when you're under pressure, like speaking a foreign language in real time.
Right. My brain feels very limited most days.
So if you learn single words, go the extra mile, when you try to speak, your brain has to do 3 really hard things at once. First, it has to find each word. Second, it has to assemble them in the right grammatical order.
Which is already a nightmare.
And third, it has to process the overall meaning. That just burns through your cognitive RAM, your working memory, incredibly fast. It's why you feel so exhausted after a long conversation.
I feel exhausted just thinking about that process. It's like trying to build a Lego set without the instructions, one tiny brick at a time.
That is the perfect analogy. Now, a lexical chunk is a pre-built Lego model. Go the extra mile is one thing, one unit.
Yeah.
Your brain doesn't have to build it. It just grabs it off the shelf.
Oh, okay. So it's a prefabricated phrase.
Precisely. It's stored in your memory as a single item. So the effort to retrieve it is tiny. And that frees up all your brain power to focus on the really important stuff.
Like what?
Like, should I use a formal or informal tone here?
Yeah.
What was the other person's body language? What am I going to say next? You get to focus on the conversation, not the construction.
It's the difference between being an architect, a bricklayer, and an electrician all at once versus just being the person who lives in the house.
That's it. It expedites everything. So with that in mind, let's just, jump right into the deep end. I want to hit you with a scenario that shows just how absurd this hidden language can be.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. Give me a real-life situation.
All right. Picture this. You're in the office break room. You're chatting with a colleague. Let's call her Sarah. And the topic is company politics. Of course.
The best topic.
Always. And Sarah's been telling everyone in the department with a lot of confidence that you're all getting brand new top-line computers next month.
Ooh, nice. Morale is high.
Morale is through the roof. And she says she knows this because she saw an internal memo that confirmed the budget was allocated. It's a sure thing.
Okay, so it's not just a rumor. She has a source.
She has a source. But then, a few minutes later, you see the IT director walking down the hall, and he looks stressed, really stressed.
I already know that look. That's the server's on fire look.
That's the one. So you discreetly pull Sarah aside and you whisper, "Hey, I just saw the IT director and he told me that memo you saw. That was actually for next year's budget.
Oh no.
And he said this year's budget was completely frozen yesterday. Some massive unexpected server costs came up."
That is a classic corporate bait and switch. Hopes raised, hopes dashed.
Absolutely. And you could see Sarah's face just fall. But you, trying to be a good colleague, you just shrug and you say, "Look, I know you were sure about those computers, but honestly, any information coming from the IT department right now, you should take with a pinch of salt."
Wait, stop. Hold everything right there.
"What's wrong?" I was being sympathetic. My tone was perfect.
Your tone was fine, but let's put on our learner hat. Let's say I've spent years getting my grammar perfect. I have a C1 level of English proficiency. I am now completely and utterly lost.
Why?
Why salt? Why a pinch of salt? I understand the word take, I understand information, but you have just instructed our friend Sarah to add a very small amount of a crystalline mineral sodium chloride to a complicated financial forecast.
Well, when you put it like that,
Is this some obscure chemical process I missed in science class? Are you suggesting that seasoning the bad news will make it more palatable? Like easier to swallow? What is happening?
for that, right there, that is the exact problem we're talking about.
It sounds completely ridiculous if you're only processing the literal words.
But for me, as a native speaker, I hear take with a pinch of salt. And my brain doesn't even think about seasoning or chemistry. It's a single chunk that means be skeptical.
The literal meaning is completely gone. It's all about the social evaluation, the critical assessment of the information.
And this absurd moment, this disconnect, is the entire reason we're doing this deep dive. When you're trying to follow fast, colloquial speech, you hit these walls because the literal words do not map to the cultural intent.
The aha moment for any learner is when you finally realize you have to stop translating word for word and start prioritizing the cultural insight. You have to understand the social vibe.
That is the goal. Forget the dictionary definition for a second. What is the intent behind the phrase? That is the step that takes you from proficient to truly fluent.
It's about understanding the weight, the conversational gravity. This is how you move from just, being understood to actually feeling comfortable, fluid, and genuinely part of the conversation.
Okay, let's get our lab coats on. We're moving into the autopsy section.
Time to get forensic.
We're going to dissect the energy, the history, and the proper use of 3 high-frequency idioms. These are essential for anyone who wants to unlock that next level of cultural understanding, both at work and, in your social life.
Let's start with the one that kicked this whole thing off. The one that almost caused a scientific incident in our break room. Let's talk about take with a pinch of salt.
All right. Let's start with the simple linguistic core. The basic definition is to not completely believe something, to regard it with skepticism and caution.
Simple enough. Now, for the vibe check. This phrase is, as we discovered, the ultimate tool for diplomatic skepticism. It's the polite, socially acceptable way to say, I think you might be lying, or at the very least, you are probably exaggerating.
And here's the crucial part. It allows you to question the information without directly attacking the person who gave you the information.
That's a really important distinction, the social saving face element.
It's vital. The sources we looked at point this out specifically. If you say you should take his stories with a pinch of salt, he often exaggerates, you're putting a warning label on the stories. You're not calling him a liar to his face.
It's a much softer approach. It's so different from saying, that's a lie, or that's complete nonsense, that's confrontational.
Right. That's a direct challenge. Take it with a pinch of salt. Lets the information still exist in the conversation.
Right.
But you've just attached a little asterisk to it, a little footnote that says, warning, may not be 100% accurate.
It also signals something about you, the speaker. It shows you're not naive. You have critical distance. You're a discerning person who evaluates information.
Okay, but I have to ask, I have to play the analyst here again. Why salt? You've told me the vibe, but the literal image is so weird. Is there a history here? Where does this actually come from?
I am so glad you asked. There is a history, and it's a fantastic example of the kind of hidden cultural layers we're trying to uncover. Most linguists and historians trace this phrase all the way back to ancient Rome.
Ancient Rome. Seriously.
Seriously, the original Latin phrase was cum grano salis,
Which means
with a grain of salt.
a grain. That's even smaller than a pinch. We've inflated the amount of skepticism over the centuries.
We have skepticism inflation. Now, the popular theory connects this to an ancient belief about poison.
Poison. Okay, now I'm hooked.
It was believed that some poisons could be counteracted if you took the antidote along with a single grain of salt. The salt was this common, trusted substance that was thought to help the antidote work or maybe even make the poison itself less harmful.
Wow. Okay, so if we map that onto today's usage, the information is the potential poison.
Exactly. The rumor, the exaggeration, the fake news, and adding that grain or pinch of salt is your mental antidote. It's what allows you to process the information without being harmed by it. It makes it less damaging.
That's an incredibly powerful metaphor, and it connects directly to higher-level thinking skills. When you're in an academic setting or a business meeting, using a phrase like this shows you can filter information. You're not just passively receiving it.
You can tell the difference between a hard fact and, just a piece of conjecture that needs to be handled with care.
But we have to talk about the danger zone for this phrase. The context is everything. Where can you use this safely?
Okay, good point. You'd use this with a trusted colleague, a friend, a peer. You're discussing office rumors, political forecasts, gossip. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But you would absolutely not say this to your CEO's face after she just laid out her 5-year strategic vision for the company. Interesting plan, but I think I'll take it with a pinch of salt.
That would be what we call a career-limiting move.
A fatal error, because the level of skepticism has to match the power dynamic. Using it about your boss to a friend is fine. Using it to your boss is a direct challenge to their authority. The social risk is huge if you get the register wrong.
Okay, so that's our masterclass in skepticism. Let's do a complete 180 now. We're moving from doubt and caution to unbridled enthusiasm and dedication. Let's analyze our second chunk, go the extra mile.
I love this one. It's so positive.
It's almost always positive. It carries this vibe of high praise, either professionally or personally. The core meaning is simple: to make a significant extra effort, to do more than what was expected or required.
The vibe check on this is all about high-octane energy. It's about dedication, professionalism, diligence. The mental image is so clear. You were asked to run a race that was 1 mile long.
Right, the minimum requirement.
And you voluntarily, on your own, decided to keep running for a second mile. You delivered more than was asked for.
And just like the salt idiom, the history of this one is fascinating and adds a whole new layer of meaning.
Oh, really? Where does this one come from?
Many scholars trace it back to the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible, in the Gospel of Matthew,
I did not expect that.
and relates specifically to a Roman law at the time. A Roman soldier had the legal right to compel a Jewish citizen to carry their heavy pack for 1 Roman mile. No more, no less.
Okay, so it was a form of forced labor, basically.
Exactly. It was a symbol of occupation and oppression. But the teaching was, if someone compels you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles.
Wow. So the original meaning isn't just about working hard. It's rooted in this idea of radical voluntary generosity in the face of compulsion.
That's it. It elevates the phrase. It's not just about doing extra work. It implies a spirit of initiative, of choosing to give more than is demanded. And you see that spirit in how we use it today.
Yeah, like the example from our source material. Our teachers always go the extra mile to help students understand difficult topics. They're not just doing their job, they're showing a deeper level of care and dedication.
And that connects directly to achieving your own goals. If you're a student, an employee, anyone demonstrating that you're willing to go the extra mile is what gets you noticed. It opens up opportunities.
If you're in a job interview and you're describing a past project, this phrase is pure gold. It instantly reframes you. You're not just someone who is competent and meets expectations. You're a proactive leader who exceeds expectations.
And this brings us back to the linguistic power of these chunks. Go the extra mile is so effective because it's a powerful replacement for weaker, less vivid language.
What do you mean by weaker language? Give me an example.
Well, think about how someone might describe a diligent colleague. They might say, she worked very, very hard on the report. She was very diligent.
Okay, that sounds a little clunky. A lot of varies.
Exactly. It uses a lot of weak adverbs and modifiers. A good writing coach would tell you to find a stronger verb. But with this lexical chunk, you just replace that entire clunky sentence with, she went the extra mile on the report.
It's so much more concise and impactful. The phrase itself becomes the powerful description of the action.
Precisely. It's a noun phrase that's acting like a powerful adverb. It tightens up your language both in speaking and writing and makes you sound much more assertive and clear.
Okay, but I want to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Please do.
Is going the extra mile always a good thing? I mean, in a corporate context, if an employee is constantly having to go the extra mile, doesn't that maybe signal a problem?
That's a brilliant point. Go on.
Like if I'm always having to run 2 miles when the project was only scoped for 1, maybe my manager is bad at planning. Maybe the company is understaffed. It could be a sign of future burnout, not just current brilliance.
That is such an important social nuance to understand. You've just moved from the linguistic definition to the real-world conversational context.
Yeah.
Linguistically, the phrase is a compliment.
Right.
But you're correct. The vibe can change depending on who says it and how often. If a person uses this phrase to describe themselves all the time, oh, I'm so tired, I always have to go the extra mile at work, it doesn't sound like a brag.
It sounds like a complaint.
It sounds like a complaint, or maybe a bit passive-aggressive, is like you're venting about your workload.
So the key for the listener is to understand that this phrase is most powerful when someone else says it about you. It's a form of praise, a commendation. It's less powerful as a form of self-promotion.
Absolutely. The positive vibe really depends on who is delivering the compliment. Your boss saying it about you in a performance review. Fantastic. You saying it about yourself in that same review, it might land a little differently. You'd need more context to make it sound humble and not boastful.
That is a great dissection. Okay, let's move to our third and final idiom for this section. This one brings us back to the idea of information, of sources of confidence. Let's talk about straight from the horse's mouth.
The literal image for this one is probably the weirdest of the three, but the meaning is just so clear and authoritative. It means you got the information directly from the original, most reliable, or most authoritative source possible.
The vibe check here is all about instant, high-level confidence. When you use this phrase, you're signaling that this is not a rumor, this is not secondhand information, this is an indisputable fact. You're essentially showing everyone your credentials.
And its history is what grounds that feeling of confidence. The idiom comes from the world of horse racing, probably from the early 20th century.
Okay, that makes sense. A
Yeah.
horse racing.
Right. When you are buying a racehorse, a dishonest seller might lie about the horse's age to make it seem younger and more valuable. But there was one way to get the undeniable truth.
Let me guess. You looked in the horse's mouth.
You looked straight in the horse's mouth. A horse's age can be determined very accurately by examining the wear and tear on its teeth. The teeth don't lie.
So the horse's mouth is the source of the raw, verifiable, physical evidence. It's the ultimate truth.
That's it. And for a learner, what's so critical to understand is that this phrase is the polar opposite of take with a pinch of salt. They exist on a spectrum of certainty.
So if you use the salt phrase, you're telling your listener this information has like a 5% chance of being true.
At best. But if you use the horse's mouth phrase, you're saying this is 100% verified. You can take this to the bank. It's a done deal.
So if a colleague asks you about the new vacation policy and you say, I got it straight from the horse's mouth, the head of HR told me herself in a meeting this morning.
You're not just sharing information at that point. You are actively and explicitly validating it. And you're also subtly signaling your own place in the communication chain. You have access to the source.
And that ability to validate information so efficiently is a really advanced communication skill. For a learner who's still struggling with that feeling of anxiety, of not being sure if they're saying the right thing, using a phrase like this can be a huge confidence booster. When you can pull out a complex, authoritative chunk like this, it proves to yourself that you can move from just knowing words to using them with strategic impact.
You stop worrying about grammar and you start focusing on the effect of your message. That's a huge mental shift.
Okay, so we've armed you with the what. We've given you 3 powerful idioms for skepticism, for dedication, and for certainty. But now we have to talk about the how not to.
This is crucial. Just knowing the definition is not enough. In fact, if you misuse them, you risk falling straight into what we call the robot trap.
The robot trap, that sounds ominous.
It's that state where your English is grammatically perfect, but it sounds completely unnatural. It's mechanical. It lacks a human soul. And it completely undermines the authentic connection you're trying to build.
And the main reason for this, you're saying, goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. It's trying to build phrases from single words instead of using the pre-built chunks.
It is the #1 culprit. If you learned straight from the horses and mouth as 5 separate vocabulary items, your brain is doing way too much work in the middle of a conversation. It's searching for 5 things, assembling them, applying the metaphorical meaning.
And while you're doing all that, the native speaker you're talking to has already moved on. They're 3 sentences ahead of you.
Exactly. That high-effort retrieval process causes those unnatural pauses, the hesitation, the deer in the headlights look. To sound spontaneous, you have to burn these phrases into your memory as single flowing units of sound.
And it's not just about the words themselves or the speed. There's another huge part of the robot trap, isn't there? It's the music of the language.
Yes, the stress in intonation. You could have the right words in the right order, but if you say them with the wrong rhythm and pitch, you can completely destroy the vibe you're going for.
Can you give an example of that?
Absolutely. This is a massive issue that traditional grammar classes often just skip over. Research from language centers confirms that advanced learners don't just struggle with speed. They struggle with what we call reduced forms and connected speech.
Okay, reduced forms. What's that?
It's how native speakers get lazy and blur words together to speak faster. Think about the simple question, what did you say?
Right. No native speaker says, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
With 4 distinct sounds.
Never.
Yeah.
We squish it all together. It comes out sounding like, what ja say? The teak and what gets soft, the did you becomes ja. It sounds like one word.
And if you've only ever seen it written down, that sound is completely unrecognizable.
It's orally invisible to you. Your ear isn't trained to catch it. So if you memorize the phrase, go the extra mile, but you pronounce it go the extra mile, with equal stress on every single word.
It sounds robotic.
It sounds totally robotic. And depending on your intonation, it might even sound sarcastic or passive-aggressive instead of like a sincere compliment. The music is wrong.
So fluency is as much about training your ear as it is about training your mouth. You have to learn to hear the patterns, the rhythm, the shortcuts that native speakers use.
You have to process the sound pattern, not just the individual letters on a page.
Uh,
And that leads us to the second and equally dangerous part of the danger zone,
which is?
mismatched registers.
Knowing what to say, but not knowing when to say it or who to say it to.
And the social consequences of getting this wrong can be much higher than just making a small grammar mistake.
I have a story about this. It's actually much more embarrassing than the one I told you about earlier.
That's good.
It was my first job out of university at a very old, very conservative law firm. Everything was incredibly formal.
I'm picturing dark wood paneling and very serious suits.
You are picturing it perfectly. I had to send a very important update to a senior partner about a major court filing we were working on. I had been up for 2 days straight, proofreading this document, making sure it was perfect.
High stakes.
Extremely high stakes. And the email I wrote was incredibly formal. Dear Mr. Abernathy, pursuant to our discussion, please find attached. You know, that kind of language.
Very lawyerly.
But then right at the end, I was so proud of the work we'd done. I wrote, I think we really went the extra mile on this one. Cheers, my name.
Oh, no, you did not.
I did. Cheers. And went the extra mile. In this super formal, high-stakes legal email, the partner's assistant called my desk about an hour later, and I'm not kidding, she asked if I was feeling unwell.
She thought you were having some kind of episode.
She thought I'd been hacked or that I was sending emails from my personal account by mistake. It was seen as so jarringly casual and arrogant that it completely undermined the serious professional tone I was trying to set.
That is the perfect, albeit painful, illustration of a register mismatch.
It felt like I'd written a Supreme Court brief in bright pink crayon.
Exactly. Academic writing, formal business communication, it demands a certain structure. Complex sentences, no slang, no fragments. But then, an hour later, you're at a pub with your friends, and that same formal language would make you sound like a weirdo.
So a phrase like go the extra mile might be perfect in a casual team meeting at a tech startup, but it could be a fatal error in a client presentation at a 100-year-old bank.
It all comes down to the unwritten rules of that specific communication environment. And this is where deliberate, guided practice becomes so important. The only way to learn these nuances without having to go through the painful real-life embarrassment is in a low-stakes setting.
This is where things like language exchange apps or getting a tutor can be a game changer.
Absolutely. An app like Tandem or joining a meetup group, it lets you practice real conversations with real people in a safe space. The whole point is to learn and make mistakes without any serious consequences.
But if you really want to fast track that contextual learning, a private tutor is just invaluable.
It's on another level. Because with a good tutor, you're not just getting grammar corrections, you're getting a dedicated coach who can run you through specific scenarios. They can give you immediate, precise feedback on these exact kinds of social nuances.
So they can say, okay, the phrase go the extra mile was grammatically correct there, but in this specific role play of a job interview, a native speaker would probably have said, I ensured we performed with maximum due diligence.
Yes, they are teaching you the social contract of the language, but it's completely tailored to your personal goals, whether that's passing an academic exam or negotiating a business deal. That kind of guided practice is what builds real conversational confidence.
And it always comes back to confidence, doesn't it? The key is that confidence isn't something you wait for. It's not like you study until you feel confident and then you start speaking.
It's the exact opposite. Confidence is the result of speaking. It's what you build by starting today, by pushing through that fear and anxiety of making mistakes in real interactions.
All right. We have been deep into the linguistic weeds. Let's pull back and synthesize the main lesson before we send you off with a challenge.
Okay, the recap. We started by identifying that huge gap between knowing words and using them fluently. True fluency isn't about memorizing the dictionary. It's about internalizing these pre-built lexical chunks and understanding their hidden cultural meaning.
We then performed an autopsy on 3 essential power idioms. First, take with a pinch of salt. This is your tool for sophisticated diplomatic skepticism. It lets you question information without causing a direct conflict.
And we learned its incredible history might be rooted in ancient Roman poison antidotes, which just makes you sound even smarter when you know it.
Then we had go the extra mile. This is your go-to phrase for describing positive, powerful dedication. It's rooted in the idea of voluntary generosity, and it makes your language more vivid and concise by replacing weaker adverbs.
And finally, straight from the horse's mouth. This gives you instant, indisputable credibility. It's the ultimate way to validate your information source, which in turn helps you speak with more authority and less anxiety.
We then warned you about the dreaded robot trap, the danger of sounding mechanical because you're learning words in isolation, or just as important, you haven't mastered the right stress, intonation, and those tricky reduced forms that native speakers use all the time.
And we finished with the critical importance of matching your register to your context. Knowing that a casual phrase in a formal setting isn't just a mistake, it can be a social disaster. And that consistent practice in a feedback-rich environment is the only way to turn that knowledge into real, comfortable fluency.
You know, fluency isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a journey. Even native speakers are learning and refining their language well into their adult lives. The effort it takes to really internalize these nuanced chunks is huge. But the payoff, feeling truly competent and confident in any situation, is 1,000 times greater.
So, With all that in mind, here is your challenge for the week. We want you to take this out of the theoretical and into the real world. I want you to pick one of the 3 idioms we covered today.
Just one. Go the extra mile, straight from the horse's mouth, or take with a pinch of salt.
And over the next week, your mission is to find a natural opportunity to use it in a real conversation. A team chat on Slack, a Zoom call, a language exchange session, whatever.
But here is the most important part of the challenge. Don't just focus on saying the words correctly. I want you to focus entirely on mimicking the social vibe we talked about. The cadence, the rhythm, the right word to stress in the phrase.
Before you use it, maybe even try the shadowing technique. Find a clip of a native speaker using the phrase and say it along with them a few times to really nail the music of it. That's the key.
And as you go out to do that, here is our final provocative thought for you to chew on. If real fluency is about moving from grammar rules to conversational vibe, then consider this.
What other super common, simple English phrases are you using every single day that have a completely hidden meaning? Think about a phrase like, I'll try my best. When someone says that, is it a genuine, heartfelt promise of maximum effort? Or is it actually a very polite, diplomatic social code for saying, I'm sorry, but this is probably not going to happen, and I'm letting you down gently?
The quest for fluency isn't just about taking a language course. It's about becoming a full-time cultural detective, constantly looking for the silent agreements and hidden meanings that lie just beneath the surface of the words. So go out there and start investigating.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.
See you soon.